Hi all, Eric here. As you know, I like to contrast expectations for the way things have always been done against nexpectations, the way we need to start doing things for how to move into the future. And today I definitely want to talk about the way things have always been done, especially around calendaring, particularly how to make calendaring feel a lot less like this and a lot more like this. And unless you're a big fan of your schedule being hair on fire, reactive, and everything going crazy, then you're going to really like this episode. So join me today in Extra, episode number 6. Give yourself a break. So as always, I'm looking to set nexpectations in life, finance, career, and business. And today I'm going to light up career and business. I want to set nexpectations with the way things have always been done using 3 numbers, 30, 60, 90. 30, 60, 90 represents pretty much the universal increments of time most all of us are putting in our calendar when we schedule our days. Perhaps using a 30-minute meeting for the quick ones, a 60-minute meeting is pretty normal, or maybe if you need something a little longer, maybe it even goes to 90 minutes or more. But almost always, there's going to be some sort of increment of half hours. If we were to come across somebody who had their day scheduled like this, all tightly packed together with 9 different appointments, we might give that person a really cool label like productivity warrior. You know what they add to any word they want to make sound cool in business and career? They just add the word warrior. It's not a good thing. Let me make my case for why it is 30, 60, and 90-minute appointments stacked together to create this productivity warrior labeled day is not a good thing. Let me try to make my case using 2 categories. The first category I want to make is what I'll call the visible stuff in our day. That would be things like our appointments. And I want to contrast that to the invisible stuff in our day. Oh, it's still there, but we didn't plan for it. It doesn't show up in our calendar like appointments do. Perhaps you had a conversation with somebody and it requires that you do some follow-ups. Well, you better capture those follow-ups or you're going to forget to do it later. How about sometimes it's quick? You can outlet the follow-ups very easily. You just need a little bit of time to send that PDF to them or get that follow-up email out. Perhaps another example is impromptu callbacks. They're not scheduled, they're quick. But you need some time in order to pick up the phone and just give that person a call to take care of something you need to take care of. Another might be to prepare for the next meeting. Goodness forbid you don't walk in rushed or harried, but you actually had time to prepare for your next meeting. Or perhaps you're a human being and you just need a breather. I don't know about your day, but mine doesn't go perfectly every time. And sometimes I just have to manage the unexpected. And if I don't have enough time to do that, I sometimes have to break my appointments or all the things that I plan can go by the wayside. Maybe you just want to get a cup of coffee. And if you get enough coffee, you probably will need to go to the bathroom too. These are all things that you're going to need time for in your day. I call these the invisible stuff. They're there, but they're usually not accounted for. Which brings us back to our productivity warrior. 9 appointments, stacked tight, 30, 60, 90. No such thing. There's no such thing as a productivity warrior that does this. And if this is the model we're trying to emulate or we think we should be after, we're going to continuously have problems. Yes, we've got 9 appointments stacked into this day, but we also have no planned breaks. And we have absolutely no sanity, and we're going to be stressed out like crazy. So enough of this stuff. I'm going after 30, 60, 90. Oh, I know. It's expectation stuff. It's just the way we've always done it. Let's not rock the boat. Let's not get too crazy. No, I'm going after 30, 60, 90. I don't know why we do it. I don't know how we got in it. All I know is that we are holding on to it because of tradition and inertia, and it's not working. So what I'm going to propose instead, 25, 45, 75. Your intuition's probably correct here. I'm simply changing 30-minute appointments into 25 minutes. 60-minute or 1-hour appointments into 45 minutes, and 90-minute appointments into 75 minutes. If you could have done it in 30 minutes, I think you can do it in 25. If you could have done it in an hour, you could probably do it in 45 minutes. And if it took an hour and a half, with a little bit of work, I bet you can get it down to 75 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes. This idea isn't mine. There are mega companies in Silicon Valley that have been doing this for years. I just don't know why it hasn't caught on. 25, 45, 75 is my version of it. But when you look at it, even though it's not a radical idea, what it produces is so much more helpful than the traditional way we've done things. Like here you can see 1-hour appointments have now been made into 45 minutes. Half hours have been made into 25 minutes, and hour and a half meetings have been made into 75 minutes. And the difference isn't the number of appointments. The difference when you compare it to the other one is the space between the appointments. The space to actually do the stuff that's invisible to our day, but we know happens, and we know if we don't create time, we're gonna have some real troubles. Let's just contrast the outcomes of these 2 days. They both have 9 appointments. The original one, though, has no planned breaks whatsoever, whereas the new one has over an hour and 3/4 of time that's there to take breaks, to have space, to take care of all the invisible stuff I mentioned earlier, and maybe some stuff I didn't even think to mention. And while the original one would cause all kinds of insanity and stress, the new one actually causes sanity and productivity. Major changes from simply changing 30, 60, and 90-minute appointments into 25, 45, and 75-minute appointments. It sounds so simple, and yet when you go to implement it, I'm going to give you some things to consider because my journey, it wasn't so simple. So 25, 45, 75. The world's not going to be ready for this. Most people are still going to be thinking a half hour, an hour, 90 minutes. When I first told this to some of the people on my team, they said, "You can't do that. You'll just sound like an oddball." And I did. And wherever it is I can affect the meetings, they run 25, 45, 75. But I don't control everybody, and neither will you. So sometimes you'll still have to have half hour, 1 hour, an hour and a half meetings. It's just how it'll be. But if you can start to tackle this one appointment at a time, and maybe eventually get to the majority of your appointments, maybe you just do it inside your team. Maybe you do it as an organization, and it's only outside appointments. But however you do it, you can get to here over time. The second thing for your consideration is if you make your appointments 25, 45, 75, really stick to the time. It's gonna take some practice. Sometimes you look at that extra 15 minutes of buffer between 45 minutes and the 60 minutes that you gave yourself in the slot, and it's tempting to go over. Be careful with that one. It's a slippery slope. Don't be that person in the meeting that goes, "Oh, well, we got 15 minutes of padding," and keep going. Unless it's an emergency. Really give people the space, give yourself the space to have a little bit of sanity, to take care of all that invisible stuff. Not only will you be more productive, but if you lead teams and organizations, they're going to be more productive too, let alone happier in the workplace while they're being more productive. A third thing for your consideration is I made these numbers up. They could be whatever numbers you want. I've heard of one of the massive juggernauts in Silicon Valley making it 20 minutes and 50 minutes, not 25 and 45. Perfectly fine. I don't know that I can get 30-minute meetings into 20 minutes. It felt too compressed, couldn't make it work, but I have been able to get it down to 25. Now, if you go to 50 minutes, 50, instead of 60 minutes, that totally works. It's just one of those oddball numbers and people go, "Why is this person doing a 50-minute meeting? Who does that?" So 45 minutes, because it's a round number, for whatever reason, the world doesn't seem to question me as much on it. So I chose 45. You find what works for you. You find what works for your teams. Just keep in mind the purpose. The purpose was to make sure that you got the productivity you needed to coordinate with in appointments, but also had the space to do all the invisible stuff that comes from those meetings, that shows up in the day. Whatever times you pick, as long as it does that, perfect. The fourth thing to consider is when people seem like they're resistant or you're not sure how to bring it up, here's something I've found out in lots of meetings where I've had conversations with people. Let's say I'm in a 1-hour meeting with folks and it's a recurring meeting every week with a team. When I do that and I notice it's set for 1 hour and I couldn't control it and set it up as 45 minutes to get going, then one of the things that I'll ask people in the group, and I do this all the time, is somewhere during one of our meetings, I'll say, "Hey, since our meeting runs from 8 to 9 and it ends right at 9 o'clock, I'm guessing most of you have an appointment right at 9 o'clock as well. How's that going for you, that whole ending right at 9 and having to start your next meeting at 9? Is that going well or is it a little bit tight for you?" And when I ask that of people, everyone kind of looks around and they go, "No, it's kind of tough." And all I've done is I've said, "Would you mind then if we simply made our 1-hour meetings into 45-minute meetings? And that way we could all have time to get from one meeting to the next, go off and do those invisible things that I listed." And you'd be amazed when you simply bring it up by asking people how's it going for them when they have a meeting right up against another meeting. If people all of a sudden inspect it and you ask it that way, it's amazing how many people will say, "Oh yeah, that doesn't go well." And for some reason, it just doesn't occur to people, let's change it. So you can occur to people to just change it by simply bringing it up like I did. I don't care that that's how it's always been done. That's why I'm setting expectations. 30, 60, 90-minute meetings back to back doesn't work anymore. Change it to 25, 45, 75, or some version of that finally gives you the space in between to go do all that invisible stuff. And let's stop trying to be productivity warriors, and instead let's aim for being productivity human persons. which really doesn't have the same ring, but I promise it's much more productive and much more fulfilling in a day. When you try this out, let me know how it went in the comments below. I'd love to hear the feedback. If you found it valuable, like this, share it with your teams because it's much easier when more people do it. In the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Extra, episode 6. Give yourself a break. And until next time, set expectations. Yeah, I'm that cool.